Hey guys, what's going on? Just signing in with my 16 months and 10 days video, which is awesome. Another cool milestone. Tomorrow I'll have been sober for 500 days, which sounds pretty cool. I made my last video at 15 months sober, and I was rocking, to be honest. And 38 days later, God, has it changed. Hence why I called this video I've mentally relapsed. So the purpose of this video is I want to quickly go through what's happened and what's happened with me and what's still happening. And then I've got a few questions, and I'm hoping people out there who watch this stuff can come back to me under the comment section, and if you've been through it. If you've not been through this, you won't have a clue, but obviously if it's something that you have been through, this is gonna you're gonna know what you're talking about. So I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, basically, I felt like I had fully relapsed mentally. The only difference was I didn't actually physically have the drink, but everything else was a full relapse, and that's how it felt. As I said, the last video was 15 months, and I was rocking. I felt at my best. My weight loss was down to its all-time lowest. I was training hard. I could see physical changes in my body. I cut sugar out. I was just doing all the right things, and I had a decent mindset. Everything was good. Although I've got a load of life shit going on, who hasn't? But with all that going on in the background, as it were, I was doing pretty good. But this just collapsed. I don't want to be over dramatic, but I collapsed mentally. I really did. I went from this really strong place, and there wasn't a tipping point. I think that's really important to say. There wasn't just one thing that sparked it. It's really difficult to put my finger on, and that's what I want to talk about. But for whatever reason, I started to go sort of mentally downhill. Now, it's really interesting. But my first question is with this, that the problem is, we think that getting rid of whatever we were addicted to or we hope that getting rid of anything we were addicted to is going to solve all our problems. And I think with a lot of people it does. I think it's important to stress that. But I think when you realise it doesn't, and you've still got some underlying issues, then you've got to work equally as hard to get to the bottom of those. Now the problem I have is, I hope this makes sense. From being born up to the age of 17, I consider myself a completely normal person. Don't remember having any problems or issues. Normal childhood and what have you. I don't ever remember, going on sort of roller coaster rides of being up and down. I think I was very balanced. But obviously from 17 onwards you start drinking, and then from 17 up to 42 or whatever, progressively got worse with my drinking. Now obviously I had some, in that time period, I've definitely had some major slumps. But you put it all down to the drink at the time, and then you think when you eventually do get rid of the drink, then that won't happen again. Now it's interesting because I was looking back on my old videos, and when I decided enough was enough and I needed to get sober, my first journey, I did 5 months sober, and I crashed, and ended up relapsing for 6 months. But I was looking back on those old videos of when it was happening, and you can see the same thought process has happened again. And it's really interesting to try to figure out what causes this, because obviously, you could say, oh well, it's mild depression, or it's mild bipolar, or you suffer from, you get lower, you have these occasions, these bouts of feeling low. Again, is it just that my brain hasn't had enough time to rewire? At 16 and a half months sober, there's pause, post-acute withdrawal symptoms, I think it's called. You know, I've seen some timelines and charts, you know, and it says, you know, your brain is sort of getting back to normal after 2 years, you know, and it can take a lot longer. So it's trying to put your finger on what it is. So to give you some detail on what actually happens is, I've talked about this before, where the arse seems to fall out of your life. Now, there's levels of this, and there's the very mild level is what I've always called a brain fart, where you'll have 2 or 3 bad days when you're feeling a bit, you know, and you can't be bothered and whatever, but you pick it back up and you get going again. And then the next level to that I've suffered from is, you know, what you would call a slump, where it's for a longer period. But again, you know, you don't go to the depths of wanting to drink or anything like that, but you just kind of stop doing all the good stuff that keep you in a good place. And then there's this, whatever's happened. And I can only call it a mental crash, because I've no idea what you would call it. Looking back on me, as I said, at that 5-month point, you know, last time round, this is what happened, and I actually picked a drink back up, and as I say, I went and ended up drinking for another 6 months. So it's a very, very bizarre thing that happens, and it's just a complete mental reversal of where you were, and it's so hard to put into words what happens. But basically, the fuck it voice comes to you, and I think the problem is you allow yourself to go there. You know, probably 8-9 times out of 10, if that fuck it voice comes to you, you don't go there, and you just because you don't go there, you don't let it in. But this time round, the fuck it voice gets completely into your head, and I've got to be honest, this is, whatever this is, as I'm coming up for like 3 weeks of it. And the last, you know, up until 3 days ago, probably the 2 weeks before that, have been absolutely horrendous. So flat, feeling hopeless, and that's a horrible feeling. My eating, you know, self-sabotaging with eating, you know, when you've been doing everything right for so long, and then you just absolutely throw it out the window. And you go on sugar binges, which, you know, if you've never had one and you don't realise what a sugar crash and even a carb crash can do to you mentally, it's absolutely mind-blowing. You know, it's quite scary how much food can affect us mentally. And of course, if you put yourself in a position like I did, where the gym and all exercise just completely stopped, I just could not be bothered. And still can't, you know, and this is from someone who was going once, twice a day to the gym, you know, doing weights and cardio and I cut sugar out, you know, I'm just trying to emphasise where I was at. Now that might be the problem. I might have been doing too much, and that caused the crash. Don't know, it's definitely an option. But as I say, once that stops, and then you allow the crap eating to get in, and it starts with silly little things. So instead of drinking like water or sort of hydrating fully per day, I just went on to coffees, you know, and you might start drinking 6-7 cups of coffee a day, which is a lot of caffeine, and that has its own problems. And then again, the shit food comes, and I basically, for a full week, lived on sugar, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so that's like chocolate, crisps, biscuits, big chocolate cookies, you know, really stuff that you cannot, you know, the nutrition value in it is zero. And of course, you get these absolute spikes of sugar. So you get the ups of it when I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I know the sugar makes your endorphins, is it endorphins? Oh, that's exercise, isn't it? Whatever chemical it is in your brain, you get that hit, and you know, you get that up. But obviously the sugar crash is just horrendous, and you just go completely the opposite way, and you know, headaches, feeling so low, as I say, the hopelessness of just life in general is just there. But of course, because you keep doing this, you don't allow yourself to get out of it, because this is where the self-sabotage bit comes in, because you can spend a full day feeling that the ups and downs and feeling so shit, but then you repeat it the next day, and then you repeat it the next day, and your mindset just gets worse and worse, and you get to a point where you can see no way out, and that's what I did. Now, I actually believe I'm to blame for doing this. You know, I kind of chose to do that. I wasn't kind of fighting any demons or anything. There wasn't one massive, huge life event that sent me down there. You know, I think it was just a build-up of things. Oh, no, if you've been there, you're gonna know how bad it is. It's absolutely horrendous, and the darkness sets in. You know, and you know, if you've suffered from dark thoughts, that's a horrible place to be as well. You know, and they don't have to be particularly that dark. It's just when you allow these feelings in, you know, it gets overwhelming, and again, that's what's happened to me. So as I say, up until 3 days ago, the 2 weeks before, the first week was me just going downhill sort of on a daily basis, and kept saying to myself, you know, I'll pull myself out of it. And then it went into the second week, and last week has been the worst week in my journey, and I can honestly say, in my journey in my life, let's put it that way, I could completely felt like I'd given up. As I say, it absolutely feels like you've relapsed, and the problem is, when you start up, I've always explained it as like when you go in your head to these places, it opens trapdoors up that let other thoughts in, and this, I've got to be honest, it let the drinking demon back into my head, which was absolutely a mindfuck for me, because it hasn't really been near me in all this time. But it's that kind of when you give up on something, and you know, I'm not saying you give up on life, but you know, when the fuck it voice comes, then that drink demon, you know, he jumps back in, and I wouldn't say I've been fighting the drink demon, that's too dramatic, but I've allowed myself to go there and kind of think, fuck it, you know, you might as well drink, and that's a real mindfuck for me, given how good the journey's been up until now, and I'll be honest, it's been a battle. I've seriously realised now I do have serious food issues. My thinking is definitely broken with food in some areas. Now, I know a lot of people suffer from this, and I think a lot of people don't realise they suffer from this, especially people who are overweight and who can yo-yo with the diets and what have you. But yeah, I've really realised how bad my thinking is. And just the fact that, you know, you go away from doing all the right things and you just put all this shit into your body, you know it's making you feel even worse, and then you do it the next day. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it does feel like an addiction. Problem with food is obviously you've got to eat, but it's what you eat, and it's just for me, I throw the baby out the pram, and you know, I could just eat normally and eat more of that, you know, just to sort of fill that void, but you don't, or I don't. You purposely eat the worst things you could possibly eat, and then obviously for me, my weight loss journey has been a massive part of this, and you can feel yourself getting bloated, and you know, I'm like, I can't go near the scales. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, but it's like, don't go near the scales, because if I jumped on scales and I was like 5-7 pound heavier, that's just going to mess with my head even more. So I can't go near that. And another problem that I suffer from, I'm way too hard on myself. A lot of people tell me this, but it's just kind of the way I am. I don't really give myself a break. I have to be pushing and striving to be the best me I can, and you can't always do that, and that's what I'm trying to come to terms with now. So it's kind of, well, if you have put a little bit of weight back on, so what? You'll get control of it again, and you know, and you'll get that weight off. But it's, again, it fucks with my brain. So that's kind of what's happened. And as I say, why I'm saying in the last, I keep mentioning the 3 days, I kind of needed to put a plan together, because I didn't like where I was heading. And I'm not saying I would have, well, no, I am saying if I'd have continued down that road, I definitely would have picked a drink up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm really not, although this is day 3 of me trying to get myself going again. And it's hard, it's bloody hard. And I really understand why people sometimes give up and they relapse, because it's bloody difficult, it really is. Anyway, I'm really glad that I haven't, because that would have just made things so much worse. But as I say, mentally, yep, totally relapsed. That probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people watching this unless you've suffered from it. So that's where I was, and as I say, the thing that interests me is because I drank from 17 to 42, I don't actually know if I had any underlying issues that were already there, and I just perhaps drank to numb them. As I say, I definitely know I've crashed in the past, but you've got to be careful, because a lot of people can crash, you know, and stop doing all the good things they enjoy and that are healthy for them, and go on binges or whatever. You know, there's part of it that's completely normal with being a human, but you know, then you kind of question yourself, and it's like, well, maybe I suffer from mild depression every now and again. Maybe I suffer from mild bipolar. You know, maybe I suffer from just becoming low every so often. You know, and that's my question. It's how do you know that? You know, because you haven't got a great deal to go on, because you don't know if you had an issue. If you got an issue at some point in your life in the past, or was it simply that, you know, 25 plus years of drinking and then alcoholism at the end of it has made your brain into that, you know. You know, you reach out on the groups and things, and people go, oh, you need to go see a GP and stuff, and that makes me dig my heels in, because at the 5-month point on my first journey, you know, I talked myself into saying, yeah, I must have depression. You go to docs in the UK, and the first thing you do is they prescribe you meds, you know, and say, oh, it sounds like you've got mild depression, this will sort you out, and it might take 6 to 8 weeks to kick in, but just keep going. You know, and I don't want to do that, because I really don't subscribe. I've got to be careful what I say here, but I don't believe I subscribe to thinking that I've got mild depression. And I certainly don't want to be on meds. You know, I know how strong the human mind is, and I know what it can and can't do, and I don't really want to go down that route. And it's too easy in this country with doctors and medication and things like that. Then obviously you can look at mild bipolar. The thing with bipolar is obviously it's ups and downs. So yeah, when I slump, I definitely hit the lows, but I wouldn't say I hit the highs of bipolar. You know, when I'm good, I'm focused and I'm driven, but I don't think I'm way out there. And again, I'm no expert on these conditions. I just, you know, I don't believe that's what it is. I've got to be honest. I do think it's just the way that my particular brain is wired, and the 25 plus years of drinking have caused that. And it's still trying to settle down. And I think if I can be a bit more gentle on myself, that would certainly help, because as we all know, these things pass, you know, and if God, there's nothing truer, they really do. It's just right now where I'm sat here now, you know, that's pretty much as bad as it's ever been for me, and to contemplate picking a drink up again just blows me away, you know. It's funny as well that when you're in a good place, or just in a normal place, drinking was never an issue for me, and thinking about it. And as I've always said, I've never looked at the drink as a poison. I've never hated it. I always loved when I was drinking, and if it was a magic pill, I'd probably drink again, you know, if it could fix my off button. But my thoughts were almost fantasizing on how good a drink would be, and that kind of shows you, you know, you're in a bad place. You know, just how nice it would be to pour a whiskey and have it, and you know, it starts out, I think it's because you want to numb out whatever's going on, because obviously there's not a great deal out there naturally that you know will do that, and that's one thing alcohol will do. But yeah, it's just all that forgetting what an actual picking a drink up would actually do. You know, you just completely forget about that, and it's like, yeah, we'll just, you know, we could have a drink, and even if you drink for 2 or 3 days and then we'll pick the pieces up later. Absolutely bizarre thinking. And I'm not out of it by any stretch of imagination, but I'm coming out of it. And I've got to be honest, it pisses me off that I've gone there in my head. It really does piss me off. Because I know what will happen if I drink. You know, it might not happen on day one, it might not happen on day two, but pretty fucking soon into that, I'll be back on a litre of whiskey a day, and that'll be the end of me, you know. So I get, really strange. So I'm sort of putting myself out there for asking if anyone else on their journey's been through this. You know, when you reach out to help groups and stuff, you get some half decent information back that it happens to other people, but it doesn't seem that they can sort of put the finger on it. You know, it's just, oh, I suffer from that as well, or oh yeah, I know where you're coming from, that happens to me. But I'm wanting more than that, you know. I'm just wondering anyone out there who's really looked into it, you know, I'm looking for a little bit of reassurance maybe that, yeah, just carry on doing what you're doing, and your brain will fix itself slowly, and, you know, maybe at the 2-year mark or whatever, you know, it might not happen again. Or, you know, looking at a worst case scenario, is there something more underlying that, you know, I can't even put a time scale on it. I can't even say every 8 months or whatever that this could happen again to me, you know. Is it just simply because I've got a few life stresses at the moment and I'll let it get on top of me? Could be that. You know, there's so many could be's. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to stick myself out there. So anyway, I'm on kind of day 3, trying to get mentally, you know, better in my head and get focused and driven again. And I've had to push myself a little bit. I've had a really, it's really strange how I work when I try to get myself out of these funks. You know, I have to do it in such small steps, and you know, just the fact of not going out and buying shit food, you know, I wouldn't even call them treats, just the fucking stopping myself from doing that on the first day was such a massive event, and it was so bloody difficult. You know, it was just like, okay, today you've got no shit in the house, make sure you don't go buying it, and you know, the sugar crashes and the carb crashes or whatever it is, you know, give the chemicals in your body, in your brain, time to settle down. You know, that was a mind fuck just to do that. Day 2 was, you know, you feel a little bit better, but it's still there. It's like that cloud, you know, that cloud descends. I mean, this is why I call it a mental relapse, because, you know, when I was drinking at my worst, that cloud is just sat there, and every thought avenue, every road that you try to go to, they're blocked, you know. And again, you know, that happened. It's just like, oh my God, this is horrendous. And you can't see a way out of it. It's really bad. As I say, this is day 3, and I am starting to feel a little bit better, and I've done a few things this morning that I needed to do, and for the future and what have you. So yeah, I am feeling a bit more upbeat, and as I say, I'm hoping, or the plan is, you know, when I make the next video at 17 months, then I'll be able to talk about how I got through it, and you know, and it'll just be something I can forget about. But yeah, I think it's something I need to be very aware of, because I honestly believe I made this a lot worse than it needed to be. Again, can't prove that. That's just a gut feeling. I think I allowed myself to go with it and wallow, and you know, when you feel sorry for yourself and you actually allow the fuck it voice to come into your head. You know, I didn't really fight it, and I think maybe that's the difference this time. So it's certainly one for the future. You know, fingers crossed I'm coming out of that hole now. It certainly feels like I am. And I need to get myself back on track and get focused and driven, and I've got things that I need to get done, and you know, I need to continue doing the right things. But I have to be very bloody mindful that should this come back, you know, even if it's in a year's time or less, I have to be really mindful that I don't allow myself to go into that hole. So yeah, if this sort of resonates with anyone watching, you know, please drop a line in the comments, because I'd love to hear from you. you know, if you're going to just say, you know, you need to go to doctors, I'm not going to do that. I don't believe that that's what it is. And that's that, as again I said, my thinking of that is because I went to the doctors 2 years ago now, you know, and I was on antidepressants for I think about 8 weeks, and I'd come out of it myself, and then I realised, you know, well, you're on this medication and whatever, and it wasn't the medication that turned this round. It's more about knowing how your own mind works, and I've got a great understanding of that. But I've got to be honest, this one blindsided me. It really did. I didn't see this coming to the extent that it hit me. And you know, you get a hangover period after it as well, which I'm coming out of now. So yeah, sorry I'm whittling on, but yeah, if anyone else has got any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear from you, because it's something that I've got to, you know, I've done my own research and I've looked, you know, medical reasons or whatever, but I think it's very down to the individual. That's the problem, you know. But I like my sort of methodology of, you know, the brain being a powerful thing, and I think doing the right work on yourself, I think we can fix a lot of this stuff ourselves. But yeah, I'll leave it at that, and all being well, I'll do my next video on 17 months, and hopefully I'll have more to report, and it'll have been a smoother journey, shall we say. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Bye.